Hello.
This is so strange.
What's strange about this? There's nothing strange about this at all.
It's so
Um,
strange. You're at home and I'm here, and it's
look,
just so weird. It
look,
feels formal.
tell everyone where here is for you.
Oh, I'm in London at the moment, and I've been here since November, as Nick knows. He was here setting up all of this, everything that you see for me, just till about New Year's. So this is really strange to be able to be talking to you like this. I love that you're so comfortable and chill.
I mean, I just want to go ahead and say for everyone watching that this is a little strange. There's no doubt about it, but I think it's gonna be fun because there's a lot of questions um, that I feel like I will be newly informed on, which will be fun as well, and a lot of things that obviously I will know we will have spoken about before. Much like when I read your book, Unfinished, and all the things I learned from that and stories I'd heard from you before. But for the first time, the world is going to get to hear a lot of these stories, and
Terrifying.
I think it's not terrifying at all because it's brilliantly done. So I guess the first thing is why now? Why was this the right time to write this book? And was there a catalyst to you saying, okay, I'm going to dig in and tell these stories and um, just walk us back because it started about 2.5, 3 years ago, right?
Since I was approaching 20 years in the business, I was like, all right, I'm going to do the thing that I've been afraid of, which is write. And, I see you writing every day, and I'm like so jealous because I've never, like, it's really hard for me to put pen to paper. And this was my way of doing it. But I think also, I just think as a person, I think the last 2, 3 years have made me find like stability. Maybe that has something to do with you. Maybe it has something to do with finding a sense of self and in my capabilities as well, with professionally, personally. I just felt I was ready to sort of scratch deeper. And then the book was printed and I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah. Then it was out there. It was done.
Then everyone was getting it.
Well, obviously I know this about you, and I think a lot of people do. But you're a pretty private person, although you've lived a very public life for, as you said, 15 going to 20 years. Um, you've maintained a level of privacy that I think makes these stories that you're telling in this book and kind of the background of just where you came from and who you are, all things that made me fall in love with you as a person, and I think will make the world fall in love with you even more. Um, so, talking about the book, and for anyone that's about to read it or has read it, uh, one of the coolest things is looking into your childhood and those early days in India, and then also, of course, in the U.S., and how it shaped you as a person. Now, I've heard a lot of these stories, and hearing them from your mouth is a lot of fun. But when you read it, it's really the same experience. Um, so the
I also
boyfriend.
think that's because don't you think it's because I'm also like I've written it like I speak.
Yeah, well, that was one of the coolest things for me watching you write every day and edit this book. Is you know anyone that knows you would describe you as an incredibly driven, ambitious, and hardworking person. But I saw you go into another level. I think probably because this is your most personal work you've done, and you were editing, like, connecting words to make sure it actually sounded the right way and it was your voice. What was that process like? And um, did you enjoy it, or was it challenging to tap into that obsessive level of making sure it's exactly the way you want it to be?
I've never been able to articulate that, and you just, as usual, have told me how to articulate it. You were right. This is my most personal work ever. And hence the obsession, and hence being like, this sentence doesn't sound right. This is not the word. This is not the emotion I'm going for. And I'm so glad that because you know me so well and you know how I speak and you've read the book multiple times, like when I was recording the audiobook, that's what I felt as well. I was like, oh, this is just how I speak,
And
like
you've been doing that while you're in London, just to add to your very busy plate of releasing two humongous movies, a book tour, just casually recording the audiobook. But yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, it was, that was tedious though. It's the most tedious thing I've ever done, is to be able to, figure out what exactly I want to say about what exactly I went through. But when I came out of it after like reading the book, I was like, oh, this was just, whoever's reading is going to know what I went through in that specific moment.
And also, it's all in the details too. You brought such descriptive world building into the book, and even the early army days, and just your childhood, which is, when you think of you think of you now, and all the the performer and the artist and the
Right.
career we've all come to know and love in the public eye. And I know you a little bit more personally, obviously, so I have a whole separate
Just a little bit.
the thing I love about you.
Just
But
a little
walk
bit.
walk it back to your early family life, and how those days in India and then also in the U.S. really shaped who you became as this global, sort of this global person with lots of different perspective and kind of world views, but all centered around family.
I mean, you know how important family is to me, like my extended family, my cousins, our family, your family, friends. Like that's just been my largest support system since I was a kid. Like I grew up with my aunts and my uncles and, my cousins, and
Are you
I was
nervous at
raised,
all about them reading this book and reading some of these stories? And
yeah,
are you still
which is,
nervous about it?
no, because I sent it to everyone.
You sent it to almost
Um,
everyone. There was a few you left some people out just to let them be surprised.
because I knew I didn't want to change the stories and I didn't know what I was going to do about it. So
So
fingers crossed.
the boyfriend in the closet story, my favorite of the book, which I just think is hilarious. Um, that was sent to everyone prior to, or who read that? Your mom? Who else?
My mom read it, my aunt read it, and they pointed out the accuracies, by the way.
That's good.
Um, but I didn't go to the boyfriend I've spoken about.
Yeah.
No.
Um,
But
what
I
did
have protected his
you're in
privacy.
his
I
identity?
haven't named him. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a really you know cool thing, is that you put the people in this book that you felt were important to your journey and your path. But there are some which names were changed, or you just didn't feel it was right to mention. Um, and I think that is wise. But what was the reasoning behind that? And just, I know, obviously, but this is for people at home watching. I'm the
Okay,
conduit.
Babu. All right, I'll tell. Oh my gosh, this is like our conversations. Well, okay. And only my husband could ask me this question, and no one else is allowed to ask me. But I really wanted this book to be very true to who I am and what matters to me right now. At this age, at 38, where I'm standing, what has driven me, what has made me, what has shaped me. And that includes some things, some people, and it doesn't include some things and some people. And I kind of figured that out during writing the book about what was important to me, and what has been retained is, how I've been affected as a person, not other. I didn't want it to be salacious.
Yeah, and it's not, which is brilliant. But it also, it tells some stories about some moments. I was speaking to someone about this the other day, just about you, and a lot of things that I learned about you through reading the book, and also, again, circling back, knew about you already. But one of the things that is so abundantly clear when you read it is how you faced some really massive challenges and adversity along the way at different stages in your life, in high school, going into Miss World, all these stages of early career and early life, and then later on. And you somehow have this magical way of spinning all of that into success, and finding a way to really kind of catapult yourself into a new light and level of success and passion and drive. And I think it's so inspiring to me and so many. And I know your mother very well, and I love her deeply. Um, and my guess would be that Madhu, who's let's just say an underachiever, uh, how many doctorates does she have? She probably had a lot to do with that in your early life, and obviously your father playing a huge role in shaping who you became and giving you no limitations to what you could do. And so that parenting, one of the things that we talked about early on in our relationship was how fortunate we both felt to have a strong family unit. Um, my parents, as you know, have been married for 33 plus years, and your parents married for a very, very, very long time. And that love, that foundation is so important. Um, but the funny thing about your family is that your brother is really to blame for all of this happening. For you and I meeting in reality, because if he had never sent you
Crazy.
in
How would I have
this
ever met
world,
Nick Jonas if I was
no,
like not in entertainment? Because you were always
exactly.
supposed to be in
So
entertainment.
Sid, thank you first of all.
That's true, right, Bob's? Like, wait. At 6, 7 years old, when you got into Broadway, like you were always going to be in entertainment, right?
I don't know. I think
What would have been your sliding doors?
probably try to be an athlete of some kind,
That's true. I
golf,
didn't know that.
baseball, soccer. Um, but yeah, when I was 8 years old, I've told you this many times, I saw you win Miss World.
That's
But
the craziest story, by the
you
way.
were
I don't think a lot of people
a
know
person.
that.
Yeah, I watched you win living in New Jersey. My dad also remembers it. And, cut to, I don't know, almost 20 years later,
It's crazy.
here we are. Um,
I'm your wife. Nuts.
you're my wife. But walk us through just Sid and Sid's role in your life then, and then how it's evolved now, because he's obviously back in India right now, has been since the start of quarantine. We haven't seen him since we were last there around this time last year. Um,
Wow, it's been a year since Holi
been a
last year.
year,
That's crazy.
but he's really sort of to blame in a lot of ways for you, becoming
Or
Priyanka.
given credit to, not blamed, the credit to
Oh,
Sid
I'm
for.
trying to I'm trying to make this really juicy. I'm just trying to add some excitement here.
All right, you're trying to add a little bit, a sprinkle of
A little bit of drama.
masala in it.
Yeah.
All right, I see you. I see you. Truly, if Sid's 10-year-old brain at that point didn't want his room back that my dad had given to me because I was a 16-year-old girl, and we used to watch Miss India every year, and I don't know what happened to his brain, and he was just like, he told my mom send the pictures, and she did, and you give me a competition, and I'm gonna aim for the finish line. And that's kind of what happened, and it kickstarted my life. And at that time, Sid was 10 and I was 17, and like we never were friends. It took us a really long time, till he was much older for us to actually be able to be friends. But it was because of him that I'm where I am, and we are where we are actually.
And it all started because he wanted you out of the house, basically. And then
He
that
was like,
happened for 15 years while you went on to do all the things you did. So
yeah, he
again,
definitely got his
thank
room
you.
back.
He definitely got his room back. And I bet he's watching now. So Sid, we love you. We miss you a
Love
lot.
you.
But I've also, I've now come into a lot of family by way of your big, beautiful family. And your close knit relationship with your cousins is something that I just love and have come to love all of them, the different group chats that we're all on, and the conversations, and really start to feel like they're my family as well now. And um, you know, uh, going back to your life in the U.S., growing up in high school and living the American life in a lot of ways with your cousins, um, it's just it adds such a special element in the let's call it like the grand kind of context of the story as you're reading it, because you see that you were kind of groomed to be this person with a big worldview, who had already walked so many different walks of life at an early age. And that's one of the things you and I connected on early in our relationship, was that we both had been working quite a bit since we were young, but
I mean, we both have 20-year careers.
yeah, 20-year careers, and we had traveled a lot and seen a lot of the
Hmm.
world, different perspectives, worldviews, and even faith, and just our sort of spiritual connection as well. I'm so grateful that we had both had kind of all these experiences separately, because when we came together, it just made us stronger.
And it made it okay, to be like, oh, this is my experience, and here is another person that kind of believes in the same things and has the same philosophies and the same dreams. I love, so many people ask me this and I never get to like really tell you, but it's so refreshing to have someone who can dream big, and be ambitious and be excited and be in your corner. Like, I get so inspired. I want to do so much every time I look at your face when, something great happens to me, and how excited you get. And it really reminds me of my dad. My dad used to be my biggest cheerleader. Like, the smallest award to like even a participation certificate, he'd be like the loudest person in the room. And I sort of feel that with you. I mean, you've seen White Tiger 5 times.
Yes, it's incredible.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we did sort of say, we are each other's biggest cheerleader in everything we do, and um, iron sharpens iron. That was sort of our mentality, is just to
Yeah.
come out and build each other up and make each other better. And when, unfortunately, I never got the chance to meet your father, but reading about him and then also kind of reading something and then going to you and saying, hey, can you tell me more about this story? I want to know more about this man that I really wish I had the opportunity to meet. But the relationship he and your mother had was so beautiful because you had these two incredibly ambitious people who worked to prop each other up and make each other better, and they didn't fall into any kind of defined roles that a lot of times relationships fall into. um, and I just
Especially gender roles of like, who does what um,
yeah.
within a marriage.
And I think for us, even that is kind of our model. My parents were obviously the same way. They both contributed and did what they had to in the moment to be the best husband and wife and best parents.
And for the unit to go forward, for the
Yeah.
family to go forward. Totally.
Um, so let's just get into a few things on the book specifically, and then we'll get into like maybe some more fun, just stupid questions if that's cool.
Okay.
Um, I want to talk about just the chapter of the book that I think is going to really sort of give people a closer look into your world, your life, your stories, is when you talk about some of the challenges you faced in high school bullying. And I know so many people, and specifically young women who look up to you in such a big way, and will, I'm sure, be so inspired by your perseverance and um, your willingness to really find a way to grow from these experiences. And so if there's a someone in high school right now watching this who's just read your book, and you would add anything to those chapters about high school and being bullied, what would you say to them?
I mean, I would say that at this point now it's forgivable, but it's just uncool. It's like bullying at any age, at any time, in any ways, an abuse of power. It's uncool, and I feel like it's a sense of projection. Somebody else is feeling insecure, and you sort of project it on someone else, and pick on someone who's meek or different, and it's just cowardice. And now I can see it that way. And if I was strong enough to say it as a 16-year-old, this is what I would have said, that you're a coward. But at this point now, I've made sort of my peace with it.
Yeah. Well, look at you now, I guess you could just say.
You know.
Well, you've helped me in so many ways. When I spin out about um, moments where it can be easy to let the noise overtake your sense of clarity and purpose. And you've got a lot of experience to pull from, but also you have an inner source and uh, being sense of just knowing that tomorrow will come and it'll be all right. That is has been incredibly helpful to me in my life, and will continue to be, I'm sure. But on that topic, the other thing that you speak about very openly, and that I think was even helpful for me to read, again, just to add some more sort of depth to these stories that I'd already heard, but your ability to process grief, and specifically when your father passed. And you've painted these pictures to me with a lot of color and detail about where you were in those moments and the pain you felt, but also how the community rallied around you and your father and your mother and your brother. Um, and so, out of that, processing that grief, if there's again someone watching right now who needs to hear uh, those words, just how to work through it, and loss of a parent is unimaginable, but you've grown from it and really had to find a way to process that grief. And I'm just curious, what would you say to them if they're dealing with
I
something
mean,
like this
you
themselves?
also know that, there are times when it pops up. Like, you and I'll be sitting and talking about something, and then suddenly I'm just like, damn it, I wish he was here to experience this. I wish,
Oh,
um, because I was just really tight with my dad, right? And I just think that, especially when it comes to you, I miss it so much because I feel like he would have enjoyed your company and you so much because you're like literally a manifestation of everything that he would have wanted for me. But I think, the only way of really getting through grief is accepting it. It's accepting that it's not going anywhere, accepting that it's always going to be hanging out with you and you access it whenever you need it. Some days it'll stay for a while, some days it won't. And then it takes away the power that grief has on you. Now I just know that there will be days where I will still grieve.
yeah.
Wait, I wanted to ask you one question, which I just thought of. When you read the book for the first time, you said earlier in our conversation that you were surprised by a few things. You got to know a few things about me. You know pretty much everything about my life, but what was surprising to you when you read it, as someone who knows me like more than myself, truly?
It's again stories that I've heard, but just in some more detail. And I think some of the stuff about, to be totally real, your early dating life and your kind of high school crutches and things like that. We'd spoken about it, but it's just funny to read it. I mean, it was just things detail, like imagining you as a high schooler is like really something that was fun for me to read. And then there was stuff that got into even our early days relationship, and um, you talked about the list quite a bit, the list you made with Taman and Sadiq about the things that were non-negotiables. Um, and then as I was reading, I was thinking to myself, I I kind of fit this perfectly, and yet we missed
Like
each other so much.
exactly the same
And what
person.
surprised me was like hearing your perspective of those years that we had known each other, but not given this a real shot, and kind of like what you thought about me. And you know, I had known that you sort of discounted me as a possible person to be in a serious relationship with. And to be real, I kind of understood it as I was reading it. I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Hearing about where you were in your life and what was going on in your world, and also that wasn't necessarily a priority at that time, right? And then your focus with UNICEF and doing Quantico and all these things that were like I was aware of, but at a distance. Now I got to sort of see into that part of your life,
Right.
which was really helpful.
That's
And
crazy. I never even thought about it, that we've talked about, you know, our hits and misses for those 2 years when we texted each other and when we kind of, were in and out, and but we've never really like talked about it.
yeah,
That's so funny.
and I loved hearing about you and Tamanna's days living in Mumbai, going out parties. It's all the things I feel like, oh, that would have been fun to be like, a part of your life during
Yeah,
this.
Tamanna, just for
Um,
people who don't know, is my best friend and also very good friends with now Nick and her husband Sudeep. So we're like, a clique of friends. But she and I have been friends for almost 20 years. So that was.
but when I think about the
Can you
movie,
imagine Tamanna like
of
that
your life,
now?
yeah, actually I can, which
That's
is fun.
hilarious.
But I think about like what are the scenes that will be like trailer moments in the movie of your life one day, the unfinished movie.
Oh yeah, what are the
You
trailer moments?
you like popping out of the car in Mumbai, like the sort of freedom of being a you know teenager out and partying and hanging out. I think it's just really fun. Um, I think obviously you winning Miss World is like it's just such a moment. And what's funny is when you read it, it's like it just kind of happened. Like you just like it was
Like you
so
just walk in and you win Miss World.
so easy. But then the scene would definitely be in there of you on the beach for the photo shoot, where you decided to wear a less revealing bathing suit, I
Right.
guess. And there's just early signs of like your strength as a person, as a woman, as a leader. It's really fun to read, and I think would play great. And then of course the train at the wedding. I mean, it's like I have it then replays in my head, and we've obviously watched the wedding video many times to relive that magical day. But
Oh my
to
gosh.
connect this to an earlier thought, you talk about your dad and dealing with grief, and I was thinking about something you said, which was just those moments you wish that he was here, and I remember we spoke a lot about the wedding and just private moments while we were in the moment, saying he is here, he's with us, and we can feel his presence through all the loved ones, all the people that loved him and love you, and now are sort of sending us into this new chapter of our journey together. Um, but what stands out to you from the wedding experience as a whole? Because I love the way you've written it, and my brothers and I are working on a book as well at the moment, and I've spoken about it, and it was great to see that the stories were the same, right? We
Oh, thank
remember it.
God.
Yeah.
We aligned on our stories. Oh, that's great. Can you imagine if Blood
Only
Comes
difference
Out,
is
which is the name of the book, when Blood comes out, your stories are completely different from mine.
exactly can't do that. But the only difference is obviously I wasn't in the room when you were with your girls the night before and opened the various gifts. Um, but what of those memories that you've shared in the book, and there are some that we've kept private for ourselves as is important. What's your favorite? Was it when I beat you like 3 or 4 times the ring game, or the other various wedding games that I won? Was that?
Funny. So most North Indian weddings have like little games, built into them, which the bride and the groom have to play. And yes, Nick may have beat me multiple times
Me
in
and
these.
my family and friends.
Yes,
With
yes,
your family
yes,
and friends. Yeah.
yes. Team groom fairly and squarely may
But it's
have
all
won,
to make
except for
the,
cricket.
the families come together. It's not meant to be,
Yeah, it's not real competition. It's basically so that everyone gets to know each other. But that part was my favorite, actually. Just to be able to see your family and my family sort of have to talk to each other and kind of getting to know each other and dipping into things that they'd never done, especially like my Indian family who had probably not been to, a lot of them had never been to, a Christian wedding like that. So for them to understand that, all right, this is supposed to be, especially that moment where your mom at the rehearsal told everyone that this is a somber moment and everyone has to be quiet, but the Indians couldn't be quiet. As soon as everyone started walking down the aisle, they were like, "Wah!"
yeah,
Got super.
just which made it all the better,
It
obviously.
was just really funny. And the same way around, like, to see the Milne when, everyone was picking each other up, your side of the family, my side of the family, just how much people respected and enjoyed our differences. And that's what made us one. Like, that was my favorite part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this Sangeet was obviously a magical thing, and uh, and just the fun of seeing the families come together, and then obviously the ceremonies themselves and the significance of all those, was really special. And,
Was
and
it daunting to you or your family at any time, like the whole big Indian experience? Because also you guys come from a really large family, so.
we do, and we got a lot of extended family now, people that we've just started calling family, and they were all there, obviously. Although it was a small wedding as far as the number of
Yeah, it was
guests.
just 120 people.
Yeah, which is not a lot for a traditional Indian wedding.
For sure
Um,
not.
but everyone had the best time, and it was magical. And you've depicted it very well in the book. I was happy to relive it. But now to some just fun, stupid questions for people to get to know you a little bit better. Um, I know the answer to some of these questions, which is why it's gonna be fun for me to ask them. But um, you may not want to answer them.
Oh
Um,
no!
the
Why would
first
you
one
do me
is
like that, Bob?
we have three beautiful dogs. We've got Gino, Panda, and we've got Diana, and they all had Instagram profiles. Um, but all of a sudden, Gino doesn't. So, do you want to fill us in on what happened to Gino's Instagram profile? This is just for anyone watching. This is why my wife is so amazing. It's because she's incredibly honest, uh,
I
painfully
was,
honest. In Gino's
I
case,
was,
babe, go ahead and tell them what happened.
I was editing Gino's profile because I love Gino's personality. And Instagram asked me how old he was, and I said he was under 1 years old. And they said, well, he can't
As
have an
the dog,
Instagram account.
yeah. And so
And
then his
I
Instagram
got
account
kicked
got
out.
shut down. Um, so that's where the Instagram account
Oh
went. For anyone
no.
wondering who was following Gino, gone. Um,
Oh my gosh, oh,
and
my secrets are gonna come out. I'm working on it. It should be back up soon, hopefully. Please,
okay,
Instagram, please.
another question. Um, what is your favorite character on Bridgerton? Do you have one? Haven't you been
I,
watching the show?
yeah, babe, I finished it. I told you.
I know. And are you embarrassed to say who your favorite character is? Is it the obvious choice that's everyone's favorite character? We can just skip over this one. The
No.
possible next James Bond.
Mine is well, of course, he was amazing in it, but mine was actually Lady Whistledown. It really reminded me of, like, my favorite things in Shonda Rhimes shows, like, or even Gossip Girl for that matter, It's that, like, salacious, fun. So she was really fun, but sure, if you insist.
Well, Bridgerton, has been your quarantine show while I've been away from you. And I told you that I've recently got into I'm not going to call it a guilty pleasure because you and I have a rule that there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. If you like something,
Yeah.
like it, it's fine. But I told you I've been getting really into Bling Empire, which has
I
become,
have to see that today. That's
it's,
what
you
I'm
got
gonna
to
be
watch it
doing.
today and then I'll save a few episodes for us to watch together when I get
What
home.
episode are you on now? So I'll catch up.
I mean, I'm just burning through it. I'm probably
Oh,
5 episodes.
snap. Oh, gosh. Okay, okay. I'll catch up.
And then slightly more serious question here. You're in an incredible moment in your life and career, and as your biggest fan and cheerleader off to the sides here, I'm so excited for you and all that's going on. But let's just talk through a few of them. You got Anomaly, which just launched.
Yeah.
We Can Be Heroes, which is one of Netflix's biggest movies of all time, as well as White Tiger, which, as you said, I've seen 5 times, and it's just brilliant. And you've also got Unfinished, which is incredible. Everyone knows that. There it is. I have a copy that I need you to sign for me. But then anyone with that many things on their plate, that would be enough for most people. But no, you've got a number of other things going on. So Walker, I obviously know what they all are, babe. But for those that don't, walk us through. We've got um, Citadel, which you're about to start shooting in London right now.
You
Um,
seem to know all of them anyway, Bob. So
I
it's so
do know them,
sweet
but
to.
this is not for me. This is for
I know,
them.
but it's so sweet to see you, like, count them down. It makes my heart so warm. But
When you give us the rest,
oh,
then come on.
well, Citadel is what I'm training for right now. Yes, and before that, I finished Text for You, which is my first rom-com this side of the world, which I'm very excited about, and it's Celine Dion's acting debut.
Mhm,
So who
mhm.
wouldn't be excited about that with Sam Heughan? And before that, yeah, I finished The Matrix 4 as well, which was
Casual,
casual.
casual. No big.
But
It's just
that's
the
it.
Matrix Four. Uh, okay, what else? So then we've got the Mindy project,
Oh
which is
yeah, that one. That
coming
should be
next year at some point.
hopefully Mindy and I. She's finished writing. Now, hopefully we're looking for who's going to direct it, and hopefully that'll happen next year.
So exciting. And then in addition to that, you're developing a lot of other projects, which we can't talk about just yet.
And some that we're doing together.
I was going to say one of the coolest things for I think us in this time when the world's kind of shut down is the fact that we've been able to uh, inspire one another to create. And while we were first in lockdown, you know, I really dug in on just writing and putting pen to paper, as you mentioned at the start of this chat.
And
And
Nick, by the way, writes in like one day. He'll have a whole outline of a pilot, which is one episode, the first episode, and in 3 days he'll have like an entire script. It's insane. I've never seen
But
anything
I
like
I
it.
just, I couldn't have done that without someone giving me in the moment feedback, willing to listen to everything that I was writing. And I always think back to my parents speaking about their early relationship when my dad was writing music at the time, and they were newly married, and he would come home from the studio every night at 2 or 3 in the morning with a tape, eager to play it for my mom, and she would uh, wake up and listen to it every time. Yeah, I'm sure there were nights where she would rather have just slept, but instead was a supportive partner, and that is you tenfold in everything that I've done, both music, acting, and writing. So thank you. I love you very much.
Love you very
Um,
much, Pops.
and so to close, before we get to some fan questions and all that, I want to just ask you, if this is unfinished, this book and this journey, this is the first part of your journey, which I think is so important that you've shared this with the world. What's next for you? What would you like to see next, both personally, professionally, and then also just as the world continues to change so dramatically every day. You've done such a good job of bringing so much good into the world and speaking up for those that can't speak for themselves, being the change you want to see in the world. And so the last piece of that is, what change do you want to see in the world, and how do you think we as a couple can help provide that change?
I mean, Bobs, we've discussed this so much, but there's so much that can change and so much that can change for the positive. And it really isn't about the larger change that anyone can become, but it's the little steps that, we can take as individuals and you and I together. And I know a big part of our legacy is going to be giving back, is going to be, being able to be a conduit for change for people that don't have it. It's something you and I have individually really, really felt strongly about. And coming together, I think that's going to be where we are of most use to the world, is how we use the platform that, we've worked so hard to get, and what we do with it. That's, I think, the one thing that I really, really want to focus on in this next chapter of our lives.
Okay, I agree completely. I'm all in on that.
Also, I want
What?
to be able to spend a little bit more time in our house.
Yeah, well, that would be nice. Let's start there, and then we can get to the other things. But then
Yeah.
also professionally, I've been pushing you from the minute we talked about work in the first week we started dating, and we kind of left work off to the side for a while, but then we started getting into it and realized that we were both really passionate about speaking about work, and I could tell right away this woman's going to be an amazing director. And so you don't feel like you're ready yet, but I would tell you, as an actor, I have said, wow, it would be incredible to be directed by you, and I know it's in your future. So, of the many career things, are we going to see, and I'm asking this one for myself too, not just as a conduit for the audience at home, but are we going to see a film, TV project directed by Priyanka Chopra Jonas in the next 5, 10 years?
Yes, in the next 5, 10 years for sure. I think, just you have been saying it for such a long time. My mom's been saying it for a really long time. People I work with. And now, especially recently, I've been seeing a lot of people that I've recently collaborated with on set who tell me that, you really should direct. And I just feel like,
Basically, every actor and producer and writer that you work with says you should be a director, and your husband's been saying it from day one. So yes, that's going to happen. And then
so
lastly,
yes.
the first question I asked, which is personally, you said spend more time in our home, which I completely agree with. Now, we've been jumping back and forth to London, but what else? And I know the answer to this question very personally. And the funny thing is, reading headlines, which we both do from time to time, that are speaking about certain things in our life. But separate to that, which is that's on you and I to discuss and talk through the future of our family. But uh, what else is there, personally, that you would like to see happen as we come out of this pandemic time and start to get back to a little version of normal?
I want to start traveling again, Bobs. We did
Beautiful.
so much of that. I want to see shows. I want to see you guys on tour again. I loved the Happiness Begins tour last year. It was Mom and I were just talking about it yesterday when we were listening to your new album. And we were very excited about the possibility of that. Just life, like how we did it. being able to travel on location, go out with friends, just do dinners, maybe go watch a show. I'm really looking forward to that sort of normalcy. No? Don't you think?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, again, we've spoken about this many times, and we're repeating ourselves on this Zoom. But um, yeah, I mean, traveling. You and I, probably banked more hours in the sky than we did on the ground our first year together. Um,
I want to
and
go back to India again.
I miss India. I miss the place where we honeymooned. All the sort of magical spots.
Oh,
But
I miss
I know
that.
that at some point life will get back, and it'll be nice to travel again. And um, I miss you very much right now while you're off in London and I'm here, but I'll be there soon. Um,
That's what I was gonna say. Just come home soon.
I'm coming home soon, babe. But before I can do that, we have to answer some of these fan questions.
Okay,
Um,
let's do it.
so I guess I'll just dive right in,
Do it.
um, and just ask the first one, which is an incredibly important question to ask. When did you fall in love with me? I mean, it's phrased as when did you fall in love with Nick? Obviously, it's from a fan here, but I'm dying to know. The world's dying to know, babe.
Ah! I think the first time I felt like this was it was, you remember when I came to the studio with Mubina
Yeah.
after the Dodgers game, like the next day.
So it's in the book, but let's spell it out. So we meet once, don't see each other for a year, hang out again briefly, and then it's another year before we say, okay, let's really give this a shot. We go to the Hollywood Bowl to see Beauty and the Beast, have an amazing magical night. That's the start of things. Then it's a Dodgers game the next day, which is the sort of confirmation that, oh, this wasn't just a fluke. We really like each other. And we sit down for dinner, we talk and have the most amazing conversation. And within 48 hours, we're saying I love you and all this stuff. This is the next thing of this 3-day thing was you came to a studio. I was working on some music, and what happened? How did you fall in love with me? Tell me everything, every detail.
I love how much you're enjoying this. Um, but I came to the studio with a friend of mine, and I was like really shaken up by just the whole your
You were
energy.
confused why you liked me. You're like, why am I falling for this guy?
Because your energy is insane. You don't like, one thing to know about my husband is when he wants something, like there's nothing that can come in the way of that. And like he'll just, make the whole world believe in what he believes in. And that's what was happening to me. I kind of just was going along with this energy that you were. And but that moment where I really felt like my knees buckled, I think, was when you were conducting that choir of these amazing gospel singers. And it was so attractive to see you just telling these amazing musicians how you wanted them to sound. And it was a song you were composing for a Broadway show you had written. And I just found that very attractive.
Nice. Love it.
It was very
Um,
sexy.
well, I fell in love with you. I'll just answer it too. Um, I've described this a few times to some of your friends, and your mom asked me, when we first really started dating. It was the moment you walked into the room. We had had a friendship for a couple of years prior, and um, it was a two-part thing. You walked into the room at the Chateau Marmont before we went to the Beauty and the Beast live show, and I felt this incredible sense of peace, like just everything in the world was going to be okay, and I had an awareness in my gut that you were the person I would be with, um, and I didn't question. I didn't run from it either. Which at that point in my life, I wasn't sure what was next for me as far as a relationship would go, and um, if I was ready to be a good partner yet. But I felt all of a sudden in one moment this peace wash over me, seeing you, and then 2 days later or the following day, just talking with life about you and things in which I had felt like uh, insecure to share about myself or my point of view or my ambition, even all these other factors. And you actually empowered me in those and made me feel supported like a partner before we were even there yet. So It's a two-part falling in love moment.
Oh,
But it's
that's
pretty easy.
cheating. Like that, even I had a multiple part falling in love moment.
Well, it's not a competition, babe. It's not a
Oh,
competition.
okay, got it. Okay, cool.
We're both competitive, but this is we both love each other too.
Okay, okay, okay.
All right, another question from fan questions here. As you've gotten older, how's your definition of success changed personally and professionally?
Personal success is just joy, I think, but even professional successes, I think now as I've gotten older, aligning with people and projects that give me that joy, you know? Like not just doing things for the rat race of it, but actually like really looking at being excited when I go to set. And, but I do think that comes with, you know, being in a more secure place in your career. But otherwise, you're just, you know, doing the best with what you have, I
Yeah,
think.
and you're in a moment too where you're really starting to take the reins and put the projects together that you want to do to ensure
Yeah.
that that passion will always be there. Um,
Yeah, that really is helpful too.
it's amazing to see how committed you are as a producer as well as an actor and just an overall partner in the process. And it's going to come through in all the work you're doing. How does it feel to finally tell your story?
Um, I wouldn't like I wouldn't say embarrassing, but it's like I'm kind of really nervous about it. I feel like it's the first time I'm really, you know, peeling off the curtain. I've just always been super private about, I don't know, my thoughts, the way I think, and I feel vulnerable. I would say more than I feel very scared at the fact that the world is going to read this book
Well, yeah,
and
there are a
know
lot
my
of really
innermost thoughts.
personal things that you've included, which I think is very brave. And there's also some stories that you know are going to make people feel just closer to you, and I think that it's so exciting for you because you really get to meet the Priyanka that I know, that your friends and family know in this book, in a way that an interview or you know any interview or long form chat is not going to show. But this does a good job of showing who you are and who you've been and where you're going. So I think it's brave and I'm sure a little nerve wracking, but it's all going to be worth it. Um, you appear to be such a strong, confident woman. It's inspiring. Where does your strength and confidence come from? I'm always happy to help friends, but I struggle to find confidence in myself. This person says, one of your fans.
I get a lot of strength from my friends and family, actually. You know, I don't think any human being is meant to be alone. I think it's really important to find a support system and create a support system where you're not only depending on yourself. And, you know, having that support system really gives you a sense of confidence. So I think building confidence in yourself by keeping the right people around you and not expecting their validation is really important. Don't you think?
I couldn't agree more.
Like not have friends to be like, oh, you're the best, but actual real friends who you could call at 4 a.m. and talk about your issues.
Absolutely. Um, and you've got an incredible community. We have incredible community together, and
Yeah, you
and
do. We're very blessed.
we're very blessed. The book is unfinished. Your journey is certainly unfinished, and our journey together is just the beginning. I'm very, very excited for every step of the way, and happy that you asked me to do this. Um, I'll be expecting my pay with a big kiss when I get home. Okay. Um, love you.
So cute. This is so funny. I love you. Thank you for doing this, Babu.
Of course.